What is going on, guys? I'm here to chat about Formula One. My name is Ben, and of course, go under the name Formula Wonderland on this channel. And the purpose of these few videos, which I'm going to be doing, just sitting here chatting, is really going to be looking at what is going on as we go into this new season. And as you can see from the title of this first one, it's going to be Aston Martin. And what has happened to them clearly over the last couple of years in preparing for these wrecks. I mean, this was a team that back in 2023 produced a car that was up there fighting the Red Bulls. Like in that Max Verstappen dominating season, we genuinely could have had a Fernando Alonso win at Monaco in 2023. So how have we gone to that, and everything that's happened since, and all of the emphasis that's gone into this new facility, that they're going to be saying that, yes, this is going to be state of the art, this is going to have everything that's ready. We've got obviously Honda backing, and Honda obviously actually have had very, very recent success, obviously, in the last period of Formula One with Red Bull. What has happened that yet again we're faced with a situation where Fernando Alonso seems to have a very, very poor engine produced by Honda going into a new season? You know, it does bring me a vibe of 2015 McLaren this. Like, Honda just don't seem to be ready. And I just wonder, why? Were they so solely focused on the Red Bull project and actually helping out Red Bull with their powertrains and handing across everything like that? Or did they just completely and utterly miss the mark in terms of what was needed? You look at the battery, and you've got Lance Stroll in testing saying they could be up to 4.5 seconds slower than the fastest car. I mean, if you're 4.5 seconds slower now, you can forget this year, you can forget 2027, you can probably forget 2028. I mean, this isn't going to be like a McLaren-style 2023, where they went from like 5-6 pit stops, I think it was, in Bahrain, to being on the front row at Silverstone and even taking the lead. Obviously, Lando Norris. They're going to need an absolute miracle. I mean, they have got Adrian Newey. Yes, absolute GOAT. We've seen it all the way through, late 90s, through the noughties, through the 10s with the Red Bull, and obviously into the 2020s with possibly the greatest Formula One car. You could argue that 2023 Red Bull is possibly the greatest Formula One car there ever has been. You could probably draw parallels with the W10 and W11. What Mercedes produced, of course, 2020 into 2021. And obviously, I can't remember exactly which Red Bull went up against the Mercedes in 2021, but equally an unbelievable piece of machinery. But you look at it and go, what have you guys been doing? Like, I'm looking at this going, what is Fernando Alonso going to be saying on the radio? What is he going to be saying on the radio going around Australia if it's him and Lance Stroll at the back, a bit like the Williams were back in 2019 with Russell and Kubica. I think it was then. Obviously, correct me if that's wrong in the comments. But if they're travelling around at the back, what is Fernando Alonso going to be saying over the radio? What are we going to hear? You know, is Fernando Alonso even going to be sticking around for 24 races if the car is just going to be at the back, and every time he gets onto a straight, the car isn't going to produce any power because the battery doesn't seem to be able to recharge properly? You know, you get close up to someone and then they just rocket off into the distance and he can do absolutely nothing. You know, he can't get off the line. You know, the car seems to be breaking down every 20 laps. You know, they didn't do more than 6 laps, I think, in the shakedown. I mean, Williams, at least Williams just didn't bother to show up and knew they weren't going to get anywhere with it. But even showing up, showing off your car and one of those initiatives with the rear wing chassis, which I think a lot of people got excited about, and it's all gone completely, it's all gone up the creek, hasn't it? I mean, what? I don't get it. How can you go from, saying that this is going to be, as I say, with Lawrence Stroll and Fernando Alonso, you've got Adrian Newey in, you've been hiring people from all across the paddock for this new engineering project. Like, we just know that car is going to have brilliant downforce and it's going to have a brilliant chassis. Why have they not just said, that's going to be a given. we've left Adrian Newey to do that. Why have they not plunged all their resources into creating an engine that's at least competitive? I mean, 4.5 seconds slower a lap round Melbourne when it's a 1 minute 17 now, 1 minute 16 lap, and you're doing a 1 minute 20. You know, if you're 4 seconds a lap slower and it's a 1 minute 20 lap bike, you're going to get lapped about, 30 laps in, halfway through? Yeah, 30 times 4 is, no, it's not even going to be that, is it? It's going to be 20 laps, you're going to be a minute behind. You're going to be lapped before half distance, if that's true, by the fastest car. Whether that be the Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, we don't quite know yet. Now, of course, rain could come into it, and when there's rain, obviously, the battery deployment and the recharge isn't obviously going to be as critical. In fact, I think somebody in testing, I think it might have been Betty Glover, was saying on the fact that their app said that it was 75% chance of rain for Melbourne, which I'm going to be honest, I'm rather not hoping for, because with these new cars, with the way the battery seems to kick in, and the car's struggling around certain terms, yeah, you don't want anything going wrong. But if it's a dry race, Aston Martin 19th and 20th, I mean, I'm going to be honest, how many races in are we going to get before Fernando Alonso goes, you know what, I'm off? Because he is that sort of character, I think, that will do that. You know, we've got, Australia, followed by China, back to back. Now, China, notoriously, has a massive, massive long straight. Now, if they're doing top speeds of, let's say, 170, 180, but I don't know what their top speed is, but let's say that's what it ends up being, and other cars are doing a top speed of over 210, which I think, I think we're going to see that at a number of occasions this year with just how good that battery deployment seems to be, and how powerful it is, and obviously with this override mode of the front wing and the rear wing, if they're 30 miles an hour slower on the straights, he's going to think, what's the point? I genuinely could see that even by, I don't know, pick a race, any race, but at least halfway through the season, Fernando Alonso's gone, and he's just gone off and is now doing other things. And Lance Stroll is thinking, is there really any more point sticking around? Because sometimes he does look a bit miserable round the paddock. Could we see Aston Martin losing their drivers by the end of this year? I think Fernando Alonso will just be gone. I think will just give up. Or he will try and get himself in a team that's fast. But if, let's say, that team that's fast is, let's say, Mercedes, and Mercedes have basically the choice between him, Kimi Antonelli, George Russell, you might have Charles Leclerc if the Ferrari isn't as quick as it seems to be. Well, obviously, they're going to go with like Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, that sort of driver. Fernando Alonso isn't really going to go there. He's cut ties with Renault, so I can't see Alpine or anything like that. I think Fernando Alonso is just going to be gone soon. I think he'll be gone incredibly quickly. And their reserve driver is... who? Drogovic? Like, we might have somebody, we might have a reverse of the Jack Doohan situation of 2025, where Fernando Alonso basically just goes, by the end of Japan, right, I've had enough. This engine's just absolutely terrible. I'm not just going to drive around at the back beating my teammate every week and just not being able to race anyone. And even when he can, is he really going to realistically care about racing for 13th, 14th place? Maybe the most, which is seemingly where this Aston Martin is going to be. Unless they've done the biggest sandbagging of all time, which I just can't. I mean, anybody thinks that. Sorry, I just don't think you've watched Formula One. It's just not going to happen, and I don't think anybody does expect that to happen. But I just can't see them even beating Cadillac at the moment. At least Cadillac can kind of get round. And if you compare the drivers, you've got Fernando Alonso. Yes, he's brilliant, but he's not young anymore, is he? I think he's in his 40s. In Formula One terms, he's old by Formula One terms. You've got Lance Stroll, who on his day, yes, front row in one of the Italian Grand Prix, got a pole position in Turkey. He's got a podium. He's one of the youngest podium sisters of all time. I think that was Baku. Again, things like that. Could be wrong. If it was Baku 2017, where it was just a chaos race, but again, he picked up the pieces and got the podium. But I mean, if Lance then goes, Lawrence Stroll could then go as well. You've then also got, I mean, yes, I'm batting around here, and it's a bit of a chat, but apparently, as of the time when I was sort of, thinking about doing this video, Lance Stroll apparently wasn't being followed by the Formula One official account on Instagram. How is that being allowed to happen by, first of all, Formula One? That you're not following one of the 20 drivers or 22 now. I'm still in the past of sort of 20 drivers, 22 drivers now. I mean, I said lining up 19th and 20th. They could be lining up 21st and 22nd, or just both in the pit lane, or just don't go out because they do what happened with Honda, of course, back in 2015 in Australia, and the car blows up on the way to the grid. I think K-Mag blew up on the way to the grid, and Jenson Button just rolled around at the back. Of course, Jenson Button, I think he's a very different character, of course, to Fernando Alonso, so he could sort of tolerate that. He probably didn't enjoy it, but he tolerated it, knowing that, he's trying to bring McLaren back to the front. Fernando Alonso wants a car now. Lance Stroll, he was probably hoping that this car was going to be up there and fighting for points. That ain't happening. So we're looking at possibly one of the worst cars. I mean, are we going to be questioning the 107% rule? Are they even going to be allowed to race if they're, beyond that 107%? Which we've never really seen, not since the days of sort of HRT, Virgin, and Marussia, and that kind of thing, and Virgin, and even when like the Caterham, the 2010, 2011, 2012, well, we had 24 cars, but people weren't being allowed to race because they were just too slow. Could they just not be allowed? God, that actually seems like a possibility now. If you're 4.5 seconds, I don't know the maths and how they calculate it off the top of my head, but if they are, well off, they might not even be allowed to race. And what's Fernando Alonso then going to do then? I mean, I'm so looking forward to team radios. That is almost, that for me, for the Australian Grand Prix, is going to be the thing I'm looking forward to the most. I hope he does get off the line and is racing around for a bit, because he will just fire. It will be, everybody will talk about it. All the podcasts after it, all the big podcasters, all the people, Sky F1, all of them will just do compilations and just talk about it, because that'll be the news story. It'll be who won and what did Fernando Alonso say. Oh, whoops, not the camera there. As we go there, there we go. Yep, having my own little difficulties here as well. Right, so, yeah, I mean, I'm worried for them, but you can forget, if you're an Aston Martin fan, just forget these regs. They ain't catching up. They could maybe at the back end of them, but they might as well just wait until the next regulations and just, start fresh and go for that. Because for me, if you're 4.5 seconds off now, given the fact that everybody else at the front will get quicker as well, you're going to need McLaren 2023 on steroids in order to catch up. Now, of course, they could fix the battery and that could change it completely. But in a cost cap era, when you're also trying to spend money on your downforce and obviously weight saving and your chassis and all that kind of stuff, how much resource are they actually going to put into the engine compared to everything else? Then you've obviously got the payment of all your salaries, of course. I think the top 3 highest paid people in Aston Martin, of course, fall outside that salary cap. And I think maybe the drivers do as well, I think. But, or maybe that includes the driver. I don't. I'm just worried that this could... I mean, we're looking at teams wanting to buy other teams coming in. Like, companies wanting to buy a team. The next one that I think could be bought out is Aston Martin. Because if Lance Stroll decides to back it in, then what's Lawrence in it for? He could just go, you know what, time to sell. It was a good try. He saved the team back in 2018. you know, when it was Racing Point. No, it wasn't Racing Point. It's Force India. Then it was Racing Point, which then became Aston Martin. So, I mean, put it out there, but in the next few years, will it be called Aston Martin, that team, anymore? Who knows? Maybe it will. Maybe it will sort itself out, but I just can't see it. Yeah, obviously, negative way to start the season, but I think the positive stuff, obviously, will all be there to be seen for everyone, which is, of course, we might be having a proper title fight between two teams again, which, you know, that's going to happen. And why people seem to be sleeping on Max Verstappen. Why are people talking just about Mercedes and Ferrari and not, you know, the genius that Max is? We know how good he is. He's one of the greatest we've ever seen. He will drag that car, no matter where it's supposed to be, to places it shouldn't be, because it's him. So yeah, there's a lot of positives to go into this season. If Max has got a car that isn't quite as fast as other people's, that means that car is going to be up there with those other teams, isn't it? I think we all know that. But yeah, let's just see what happens with Aston Martin, but I just can't see anything positive coming out of it. I think we could see heads rolling, we'll see drivers going, we'll see change. I think we'll see change, and very, very quickly. But yeah, let me know what you think about what's going to happen to Aston, and you know, maybe post something like what is going to be said. What phrase do you reckon Fernando Alonso will use when he's racing around? Because it's not just going to be a simple GP2 engine. It'll be something, I think, a bit more. It'll be along the lines of the worst car I've ever driven. It'll be the worst car I've ever driven, or something like that. But yeah, and that's a man who's driven a Minardi in the past. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, take care, and yeah, looking forward to the next video, and also, yeah, the early start, because I'm in the UK, for the Australian Grand Prix. Cheers.